A very good evening and welcome to the national news telecast of the most prestigious channel in Sri Lanka. Bringing you the latest updates from home and across borders, I'm Vibodha Vijay Bandara.
A pleasant evening. I'm Vilanjali Anand and these are headlines for tonight. The Supreme Court decides that former President Ranil Wickremesinghe has violated human rights by enforcing emergency regulations. A special presidential investigation committee appointed to probe into fraud, corruption and irregularities at Sri Lankan Airlines and Airport and Aviation Services Sri Lanka Limited. The Prime Minister says new educational reforms will be implemented for grade 1 and 6 from next year. Governor of the Central Bank states that the import of vehicles will not be limited. The company's amended draft bill passed in Parliament with amendments. The July allowance of Aswasuma will be credited to relevant accounts tomorrow. Japan and USA signs a new trade agreement.
And now for those stories and other news items in detail, starting off with local news. A special presidential investigation committee has appointed to probe alleged incidents of fraud, corruption and irregularities at Sri Lankan Airlines Limited and Airport and Aviation Services Sri Lanka Private Limited.
The appointment letters for its members were handed over yesterday by Secretary to the President, Dr. Nandika Sanathkumar Nayaka. Convener of this special presidential investigation committee is additional secretary to the President, K.N.M. Kumarasinghe. Chairman of this committee is retired Auditor General H.M. Gamini Vijayasinghe and other members are retired Additional Director General of Customs D. Jnanasiri Senanayake, Chairman of the Sri Lanka Savings Bank Dushyanta Basnayake, Attorney at Law Don Chaminda J. Athukorala and Additional Director General of Department of Public Enterprises NAHK Wijayaratna. The committee will investigate alleged offences committed between 2010 and 2025 within Sri Lankan Airlines Limited and Airport and Aviation Services Private Limited. The committee aims to make recommendations for rectifying these issues and to offer essential guidance to avert similar situations from arising in the future.
The Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka held a meeting yesterday. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka says that it has decided to maintain the monetary policy stance as it is. Accordingly, the bank has decided to maintain the overnight policy rate at 7.75%.
The Monetary Policy Board has decided to keep the policy interest rate, the overnight policy rate, unchanged at 7.75%. Also, the margins to determine the standing facilities will also remain at plus or minus 50 basis points. And SRR also remains unchanged at the current level of 2%. The board is of the view that the current monetary policy stance will help to steer inflation towards the targeted level of 5% in the period ahead, while also supporting the growth. The movements in the CCPI-based headline inflation reflected a further easing of deflationary conditions as anticipated. We have seen a notable turnaround in the deflationary conditions starting from March, and that continued until June. And the recent reduction in deflationary conditions have been supported by an increase in food inflation as well as a reduction in deflation from the energy and transport category. The economy recorded a firm growth of 4.8% during the first quarter of 2025, and with this we have recorded 7 consecutive quarters of growth, which there was a turnaround from the third quarter of 2023 and that continued, and we recorded a firm growth. And the leading indicators for growth also suggest that this momentum will continue.
Mainly compared to the last review to this review, when we reduced the policy rate by 25 basis points in the last review. And then expectation was that as a result, first part is the monetary policy interest rate transmission to market rates, now as already shown has happened as expected. Also our inflation projection is also stay almost similar to path. The outcome is, and also expectation projections are almost similar. We'll be moving towards our target range, within target range also towards 5% gradually. That also is happening, and same time credit flowing into the economy to support the economy as also following the same trend. We don't see any surprises. It's also moving in the right direction. Also, in terms of economic growth, economy is recovering. Q1 growth is out as an indication. Q2 also will have a similar growth. So things are moving in the right direction. As a result, so Monetary Policy Board decided this time to maintain the same stance, obviously recognizing some of the uncertainties that we may face in the future in the global geopolitics and economics and tariff and other geopolitical things. But we have to wait and see whether there will be any impact on those things on the economy and monetary policy and inflation. For the time being, I think decision is to maintain the rates based on the developments so far that has happened since the last review, this review, and also the outlook and expectation that we see. That is whether we're going to have an impact on the any tariff adjustment from the U.S. administration. It's too early because we are also in the process of negotiation, and it's a changing situation. Every day we see some countries they will announce, some countries they postpone. So that's something we have to prepare for that. It's a short-term impact. So any impact we have to manage that in the short term and then prepare how to mitigate that risk going forward long-term basis.
With regards to EU tariffs, what is the impact of this on Sri Lanka, especially on the apparel sector?
No, EU tariff, I think that is still is a proposal. I think I'm sure that's positive for our exports to the EU market. And there's a next one is not the EU. I think what was announced, I thought, is UK. Certainly will help more market access to UK market. EU is a GC plus. I think that's being negotiated in my understanding. That will be positive. That's good to have that market access.
The Constitutional Council met today and has unanimously approved the name of Supreme Court Judge Preeti Padman Surasena as the next Chief Justice. His name was presented to the Constitutional Council recently by President Andrakumar Preeti Padman Surasena is one of the most senior judges in the panel of Supreme Court judges. He also acts as the chairman of the Parliament Committee that investigate the allegations levelled against Deshabandhu Tennakon. The present Chief Justice is to be retired on the 27th of this month.
Sri Lanka has moved up to 91st place in the 2025 Henley Passport Index, improving from 96th last year. Sri Lanka's latest ranking alongside Iran reflects visa-free or visa-on-arrival access to 41 destinations for Sri Lankan passport holders. The Henley Passport Index, based on exclusive data from International Air Transport Association, ranks passports worldwide according to the number of destinations holders can access without a prior visa. Afghanistan remains at the bottom of the list, while Singapore holds the top spot in 2025.
Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya says that the government's aim is to provide quality education to children by introducing the module education system to change the measuring education through passing exams. At a press briefing held today at the Ministry of Education to enlighten journalists on the new education reforms, she revealed these facts. The new reforms are scheduled to be implemented from 2026. Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya said that we as teachers, parents and students have grown accustomed to an education system designed primarily around examinations. However, with this module-based system, students will engage in diverse learning activities and undergo continuous assessments. The GCE Ordinary Level Examination under the new curriculum is scheduled to commence in 2029, while the module system is to be or will be introduced for grade 1 and 6 starting in 2026. We had 3 years to observe this system, the Prime Minister explained. Based on the evolving circumstances and needs, we are prepared to make the necessary adjustments. We have never claimed that these reforms are final. We expect to revise them in line with future developments. Furthermore, we welcome suggestions and feedback from all stakeholders. The Prime Minister also emphasized the need to reduce classroom sizes to 25 to 30 students, noting that some classrooms currently exceed 40 students due to admissions granted on the basis of recommendations from previous ministers and secretaries of education. Our government has entirely discontinued this practice, she affirmed. Going forward, only the officially sanctioned number of students will be admitted into schools. Addressing concerns about the grade 5 scholarship examination, the Prime Minister stated no decision has been made to abolish the grade 5 scholarship examination. In order to do so, we must first address disparities among schools which cannot be resolved overnight.
Now, the Supreme Court has ruled today that the emergency regulations declared nationwide under the Public Security Act by then acting President Ranil Wickremesinghe to control protesters on July the 17th, 2022, violated fundamental human rights. The majority of the three-judge Supreme Court bench ruled that the emergency regulations issued under Section 2 of the Public Safety Act were arbitrary and void. The majority of the judges, Chief Justice Murthu Fernando and Yasantha Kodagoda, have given this ruling. However, Justice Arjuna Obesekara, a member of the three-judge bench, while announcing his decision, stated that the acting president's proclamation of emergency laws does not violate fundamental human rights. The Supreme Court Judge Yasantha Kodagoda, who delivered the judgment with the concurrence of Chief Justice Murthu Fernando, rejected the preliminary objection raised by the respondent party that the case could not be continued. Lawyers appearing for the respondent parties have pointed out that since these emergency regulations have been submitted to Parliament and have received proper approval, they cannot be challenged in court. However, the judge declared that the initial objection was baseless and dismissed it. Judge Arjuna Obesekara stated in the ruling that it appears that this state of emergency has been declared in order to address the prevailing unrest in the country and to ensure the continuity of essential services. The Centre for Policy Alternatives, Ambika Satkunanathan, a former commissioner of the Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka, and the Liberal Youth Movement jointly submitted these fundamental rights applications. Meanwhile, the Colombo High Court today ordered that the petition filed by former Minister Rajitha Senaratne to be called on the 30th to consider the order of the Colombo Magistrates Court rejecting the anticipatory bail application and requesting that he be released on bail. Minister Bimal Ratnayake says in Parliament that the final document of the new education reforms has not yet been prepared. He stated that the ultimate document on the reforms will be prepared considering the views of intellectuals and the general public. The leader of opposition, Sajith Premadasa, said in Parliament that the electricity bill, which had been scheduled for discussion the next day, was actually taken up for discussion in the Business Committee the previous day. He stated that the debate on education reforms was initiated instead, temporarily removing the electricity bill from the agenda. However, he pointed out that the discussion on education was being conducted without a clear and transparent white paper, which he emphasized as being inappropriate. He further stated that although the Honourable Prime Minister had presented facts regarding the education reforms the previous day, it had not been done through an official white paper, but rather in the form of a PowerPoint presentation. Minister Bimal Ratnayake, leader of the House, said that introducing a white paper for proposed education reforms is part of the British parliamentary tradition, which emerged in an era before printing machines. He noted that now in the digital age, white papers are less commonly used. He explained that since there was no final or conclusive document available, the Ministry of Education had not yet created one. Such a document would only be formulated after an inclusive and extensive public dialogue. According to him, reforms in education should be built through discussion and debate, and educators, teachers and the ministry itself bear a significant responsibility in the process. He emphasized that the reforms would be shaped based on public opinion and the perspectives of various professionals, and that what had been presented by the Prime Minister was merely a PowerPoint or a preliminary document. He clarified that no final or finalized document had been presented yet. He added that if such a finalized document existed, there would have been no need for ongoing discussion. In that case, they would have presented it as a draft law in Parliament for formal debate.
The Ministry of Environment has made a request to the acting IGP to conduct an investigation on the killings of wild elephants. At a press briefing held today, Minister of Environment Dr. Dhammika Pattanayake stated that there are common characteristics in the process of shooting at wild elephants. Minister of Environment Dr. Dhammika Pattanayake said that an incident occurred yesterday is the cause for the matter. A number of elephant deaths were reported through social media network at once. A death of an elephant occurred several days ago at Ehetuava area in Galgamur was reported as news yesterday through social media. In addition, 3 elephant carcasses have been discovered from Sigiriya area. These incidents had occurred a considerable period ago. There is a suspicion that a certain organized gang is behind these incidents. There is a trend in killing wild elephants in the recent period. By the 10th of June, treatments were given to 9 wild elephants with gunshot injuries. By the 15th of July, the number increased up to 13. By last evening, it has increased up to 21 cases. Therefore, it is essential to investigate whether there is an organized gang behind these elephant killings. On the other hand, there is a common characteristics in all these killings. Many elephants were shot at leg below the knee. Some elephants have videoed these elephants walking with much difficulty and spread them through social media network.
Now, the Welfare Benefits Board says that the July month allowance for the beneficiaries who are qualified for the Aswasma first stage will be credited to their bank accounts. 1.4 million and 24,548 families will have these benefits. Issuing an announcement, the Welfare Benefits Board says accordingly the beneficiaries will be able to draw their money from tomorrow.
Minister Bima Ratnayaka says today in Parliament that law will be enforced against the persons who are alleged to maintain torture chambers during the 88-89 period. Parliamentarian Rohini Kumari Kaviratna said that after the LTTE terrorist attack, the road near the Temple of Truth was closed and it has remained that way since. She said that this has led to serious traffic congestions in Kandy, which in turn has caused the city to be classified as the most environmentally polluted city in Sri Lanka. She added that air pollution in the city is severe and that environmentalists have raised concerns. She asked whether the responsible authorities would take action, emphasizing that while this falls under the scope of national security, something must be done. Speaker Dr. Jagat Wickramaratne said that he did not understand who the Honourable MP was addressing and criticised her for taking 4 minutes just to ask a supplementary question. He described her speech as mockery and unprofessional. Deputy Minister Mahinda Jayasinghe said that the Honourable MP behaved inappropriately as if she were in a school classroom and remarked that even a teacher wouldn't behave like that. He added that if she couldn't address the speaker properly, then there was no point in engaging with her further. Parliamentarian Sirisena Jayasekara said that on February 8, 1989, the Temple of the Truth was attacked at 5 checkpoints and several people were killed, including the seizure of 2 assault rifles and other weapons. He urged the current Minister of Public Security, who was once a police officer, to disclose any information available. Minister Ananda Vijaypala said that he had already proved or provided information on the matter. Minister Bima Ratnayaka said that they had informed the Director General that 158 human skeletons had been found in Matale and that the children of murderers were now sitting in Parliament. Das Jayasekara said that it was not fair to accuse anyone without proof. He criticised the minister for claiming there were private torture chambers and demanded that the names of the accused individuals be revealed. Minister Bima Ratnayaka said that during 1988 and 89, it was well known that MPs and ministers ran torture chambers.
Now, the company's amended draft bill passed in the Parliament today with amendments. Several views were expressed at the relevant debate today. Minister Vasantha Samarasinghe said that once these amendments will be finalized within the next 6 months, the ministry will inform all companies that they have been registered under the Companies Act to record who will be their beneficiary owners. Previous provisions in Sri Lanka did not provide for the revealing of such beneficiary owners since 2017. With the new amendment, no one can evade this matter by citing false information such as the gem bag of grandmother Daisy. No one can evade the ownership of existing houses. Through this amendment, the government has taken required measures to prevent money laundering within the country. This will also lead to the prevention of raising funds and arms for terrorist organizations. In addition, this amendment will prevent legalizing making black money. Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa said that there is a big mayhem and a problem that the government is attempting to privatize the special economic centres. Minister Vasantha Samarasinghe said that he feels that the people must consider the responsibility of the opposition leader. He takes the time of the parliament and tells crops of lies as his tongue twists.
President Andrakumar visited the Askiriya Mahat Vihara yesterday to pay homage to Anunayaka of the Askiri chapter, late Venerable Anamadwe Dhammadasi Thera. Later, the President had a discussion with the Mahanayaka of the Askiri chapter, Most Venerable Varakagoda Sri Jnanaratana Thera. President arrived at the Most Venerable Udugama Sri Buddharakita Nayaka Thera Memorial Hall yesterday and paid homage to the late prelate. Then the President conveyed his deep condolences to the Mahasangha of the Askari Vihara chapter. Venerable Anamadwe Dhammadasi Anunayaka Thera passed away on the 21st of this month while undergoing treatment for an ailment at a private hospital in Kandy. The Thera was 67 years at the time of his demise. Remains of the late Anunayaka Thera were brought in a motorcade from Liangasthan, the ancient temple, to the Askari Mahavihari yesterday. The remains will be lying at the Askari Mahavihari for public respect until 1 p.m. tomorrow and are then scheduled to be brought to the Askari Police grounds. The cremation ceremony will take place under the state patronage. Anunayaka of the Malvadu chapter, Venerable Niyangudi Vijitha said that the passing away of the Deputy Chief Prelate was caused due to some matter that had caused him deep sorrow, and it must be acknowledged as a matter of great sadness. The Thera further stated that the religious, national and educational services rendered by the late Thera across various fields were highly significant and meaningful, and this fact should be duly recognized.
In your weather report for today, the Met Department had issued an advisory warning to several provinces on heavy winds due to the southwestern monsoon condition that has activated over the island these days. Accordingly, the Met Department says winds ranging from 55 to 60 km per hour will prevail in the central, northern, north central and northwestern provinces and in the Trincomalee and Hambantota districts. The sea areas of Kalpitia to Kankesanture via Mana can be rough or severely rough from time to time today as well. The Met Department therefore informs the naval and fishing communities to not sail in these areas in the next 24 hours. Winds at the sea areas around the island blow westward to southwestward at a speed of about 35 to 45 km per hour. Wind speed in the sea areas of Kalpitia, Mana to Kankesanture will become higher up to 60 to 70 km per hour from time to time. Sea areas of Kalpitia, Kalambu, Gol, Hambantota to Pothuil and Kankesanture to Trincomalee to Mullaitivu will increase up to 50 to 60 km per hour. Management Authority of the Udaradalla Estate Upper Division in Nanuaya have taken steps to direct 47 members belonging to 7 estate worker families to safer places temporarily. This action has been taken due to a risk of falling boulders. Following the heavy rains experienced in the area, a number of large boulders have fallen down and there are several more boulders prone to be fallen down. A huge tree has fallen down at the Silmiapura area in Valimada last night, causing heavy damages to a house. It has also caused Silmiapura Madapatana Road. It is reported that several telephone poles have also been damaged. There is a heavy windy condition prevailing in the western slopes of the central hills these days.
Several operations of the daily operations series that has been implemented to arrest the suspects connected to drugs and crimes were conducted yesterday. The Ministry of Public Security and Parliamentary Affairs says that 458 suspects were taken into custody over narcotic charges from these operations. The raids were conducted jointly by the Police Special Task Force and 3 armed forces. Accordingly, 250.7 grams of ice narcotics, 166.8 grams of heroin and 583.7 grams of cannabis have been discovered. Under an information received, the security forces have checked a 3-wheeler in front of the Lakhuru 7 apartments in Maligawata and arrested a woman and a man with ice narcotics worth over 600,000 rupees in their possession. A sum of 137,000 rupees said to be earned by drug smuggling and 21.4 grams of ice in their possession were also taken into police custody. The 2 suspects are residents of Baseline Road in Borella at the age of 35 and 48 years respectively. On an information received by the Panaduru Crime Investigation Division, a person who robbed 3-wheelers has been taken into custody. Police have also seized 4 3-wheelers and 10 grams of ice narcotics. The 32-year-old suspect is a resident in Modara area.
The development projects in the Vanni district has commenced at present. The government has allocated a sum of 4 billion rupees for this purpose. These funds are to be spent for the rural road development in the Vaunia, Mana and Mullaitivu administrative districts. Accordingly, the rural roads that are in totally dilapidated condition for many years will be developed. Out of the amount allocated for development projects this year, a sum of 1 billion rupees has been set aside for the projects in the Vavuniya district. A special discussion in this regard was held at the Vavuniya district secretariat under the patronage of Deputy Minister Upali Samarasinha, District Secretary P. A. Sarachandra and several other public officials.
And we have more news from home in brief. A woman has died in a shooting incident in the North Mandya area of Maravilla. Her 10-year-old child has been admitted to the Maravilla Base Hospital with injuries. Police say the shooting occurred at around 9:20 p.m. last night. Police say the deceased woman's husband is in prison for drug trafficking. The reason for the shooting has not yet been revealed. Maravilla police are conducting investigations. The Let's Fly Together Brotherhood journey organized by the Socialist Youth Union on the occasion of Brotherhood Day began today from Colombo Fort Railway Station to Jaffna on the Yaldevi train. The aim is to symbolize national unity and carry the message of peace from the south to the north. Members of Parliament, officers and members of the Socialist Youth Union are participating in this. Prolific lyricist Nirmala Alves passed away last night. She was 70 years old at the time of her death. Nirmala Alves, the wife of the late Premakirti Alves, a veteran media personality, was a person who rendered great service to art, literature and cinema. Her body has been laid to rest at a private funeral home in Pilimatalava. The funeral is scheduled to be held tomorrow at 5 p.m. We'll be back with international news after this break. Welcome back on Foreign News. President Donald Trump says that the United States has agreed to a massive trade deal with Japan, one of the country's largest trading partners. Under the deal, Japan has agreed to invest $550 billion in the United States, while Japanese goods sold to America will be taxed at 15% instead of the previously stated 25% when they enter the country. Trump said on social media that Japan would open its economy to American goods, including cars, trucks, rice and certain agricultural products. Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba welcomed the announcement, saying it represented the lowest figure to date among countries having trade surpluses with the United States.
Meanwhile, the United States have also reached a new trade agreement with the Philippines. President Donald Trump announced imposing a 19% tariff on goods exported from the Philippines to the US, while US goods will face zero tariffs in return. Trump revealed the deal on Tuesday via his social media platform Truth Social shortly after meeting with Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. at the White House. The newly agreed tariff rate is just below 20% that Trump had threatened earlier this month. It aligns with the 19% tariff announced for Indonesia and is lower than Vietnam's rate of 20%. Last year, the US recorded nearly $5 billion trade deficit with the Philippines on bilateral goods trade worth $23.5 billion.
At least 10 Palestinians have died of forced starvation in the past 24 hours in Gaza, bringing the death toll from hunger to 111, including the least 80 children, according to the territory's health ministry. Israeli forces continue to bombard Gaza as 109 aid organizations call for international action against Israel, warning that mass starvation is spreading across the besieged enclave. Civilians in Gaza have told the BBC that they are unable to find milk for their babies or food for their children. The United Nations has warned of a severe humanitarian crisis, stating that Israel has blocked humanitarian aid to Gaza since March. Health officials report that most of the deaths have occurred in recent weeks. Since May, over 1,000 Palestinians have died in stampedes while trying to access limited aid, while Israel denies allegations that it is deliberately blocking aid, citing the lack of proper evidence. Israel officials claim that Hamas is restricting the entry of humanitarian assistance. In turn, Israel has accused Hamas of withholding aid and also criticized UN agencies for what it claims as a failure to distribute food and supplies effectively. Mohammed Abu Salmiya, director of Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza, said malnutritioned Palestinians continue to arrive at the few remaining hospitals, warning that many more could die from hunger. Al-Aqsa Hospital reports that approximately 600,000 civilians in Gaza are malnourished, including 60,000 pregnant women.
We'll see you again tomorrow. Signing off, I'm Vibhuda Vijay Bandar alongside Dulanjali Ananda Abeko. Good night.